This episode of Gather and Go is brought to you by Visit Atlantic City. Live to explore in Atlantic City, New Jersey. Atlantic City welcomes one and all to the seaside destination where local spirits are connected and the celebrations are unforgettable. Learn more at visitatlanticcity.com.
All right, everybody. My guest today is a certified international tour manager who has been guiding groups through the U.S., Canada, and other destinations for nearly a decade. He's one of the field's leading technological innovators and trains tour directors around the world on how to leverage artificial intelligence to enhance their trips and give customers memorable experiences. Mickey Candola, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, Brian, how's it going?
I am great. I'm so excited to have you here, excited to talk about artificial intelligence today, because it's a topic that a lot of people are scared of, a lot of people are excited about. Some people have no idea what to think about it. I heard you present on the topic at a conference last year, and I thought this is somebody that our audience needs to hear from. So before we get deep into it, I just would love to hear, kind of from a high level, what inspired you to embrace artificial intelligence when so many other people are kind of nervous about it?
That's a great question, and thanks for having me, by the way. What happened was my cousin told me, I heard about ChatGPT. I never used it a few years ago. And then my cousin was telling me how much time it saved him. And the way my brain's wired is I have no fear of trying new things. And so I also try things very, very quickly. So that's one of my strengths is I don't worry if I get it perfect. I just try it out and see how it works. And as I tried it, it was so easy for me to use. And I saw the benefits within like 10 seconds. And I was like, wow, this is a complete game changer. I can't believe more people don't know about this. And that's what led me to start teaching more people and tour directors and speaking at conferences about AI, specifically ChatGPT, but there are other ones that are good as well on that way. And then the results have been phenomenal.
That's amazing. So do you feel like that instinct to try new things, is that something that's just hardwired into your personality, or have you sort of trained yourself to be open that way over time?
It's interesting because I've been a realtor for 14 years as well. And one of the trainings I did was I bought a personality test. And it was very, very intense. And one of the things in there was I'm a refiner. So I guess that's how you're wired, eh? But I'm a refiner. So I find if there's a better way to do things, my brain just automatically gears onto that. And I think that's what one of the things that helps me is I'm able to see right away a benefit in something. And it might be a personality thing. You know, I have ADD, so we're always trying new things all the time.
Yeah.
So we're good at starting things, not the best at finishing things, but no fear of trying new things. Oh, look, it's a shiny object. Let's try this. Let's play with this. But this object I've been playing with for a couple years. And every time I do a presentation or I talk about it, I just learn more because I need to prepare for that. And so I'm always learning.
Yeah, fantastic. So it's been about 10 years ago that you got into tourism. Tell us a little bit about that story, how you found our industry, and what made you decide, like, hey, I've got a real estate career cooking here, but maybe I want to be a tour director too. Give us that backstory.
So I was about a few years into my tour directing career, and I was getting a bit stale because I did it because other people I did real estate because other people told me I should, and it's a way to make money. It's not, although I like real estate, it's not a passion of mine. It's not something I break up every day. I'm like, oh, I get to sell real estate. I like to help people. And so I went on a tour in 2010 with my ex-wife to Italy. And I don't remember all the churches, but I remember my tour director, Gus. And Gus was an awesome guy and always took care of me. And so a few years in, I think it was sometime in early 2014, I was thinking, how do I get to do what Gus does? And in 2014, within 2 weeks, I think I hyper-focused as a quality mind with ADD. I just zoned in on every single thing on the internet, chat groups, everything, any person that knew anything, and reached out to everyone about how to become a tour director. And I realized there was two ways to do it: without a certification, with a certification. So I took the plunge, paid the money, a few $1,000 to International Guide Academy, and I went there. And in college, it took me a long time to get a degree that I've never used. However, I wasn't able to focus on things because I wasn't that interested, although I'm pretty bright. But in the tour directing school, it was like a full college course in 10 days or so. And I just was in very little sleep. I thrived in that environment, and I don't know why. I just thrived. I thought there's something there. Unfortunately, a few days later, when I returned home, my dad passed away on Christmas morning. And I was really seeking some meaning and purpose, And I'm always been good at talking, as an adult. And I talked myself into a training with a tour directing company. And so there was like Survivor, every day someone's getting voted off the bus there. And a lot more I can delve on. I'm just giving the cliff notes. Yeah. And I thrived, I think we're sleeping 3-4 hours a night. There's preparation to do the next day and you don't know anything. So you're like, okay, what do I do? And so you're just, you're tired and you're working a lot. And I thrived in that environment. And a few months later, I was on my first tour as a ride along. The ride along is when you observe another tour directing doing their job. And on that tour, about 70% of the bus got sick with something called the Norwalk virus.
Oh,
I was shuttling people over to the hospital, and I learned in the deep end,
Yeah.
And ever since the first years were a deep end, most of the things that ever went wrong wrong in the first couple of years. Fires or different things in Canada. So I learned all the way in the deep end, and that's kind of how I got into tour directing in a nutshell.
Yeah. Wow, that's amazing. You mentioned the trial by fire, that Survivor style sort of interview process, sleeping 3 or 4 hours a night. Was that unique to that process, or do you find tour directing to still be a 20-hour day sort of demand on you physically and mentally?
It can be in the first couple of days. It depends on the tour. If it's a tour, like I'm pretty experienced now. So if I don't need to do 20-hour days, maybe 16 hours or so, but I do a lot. It depends how much time I have prep work to do. The more time I have to do prep work, or the more I force myself and don't procrastinate and do prep work, the better it is. And with ChatGPT, it speeds things up quite a bit as well. So 2 things. I think it's the amount of prep work you do and experience in that area. For example, I haven't done the Maritimes yet, and I got 2 Maritimes tour in Canada this year. And so for that, if I do all the prep work properly, I can have more time to myself. If I don't, then I won't. Also, if you've done the tour before, that also greatly reduces the amount of time that you're going to need on the extra time that you need on the tour. It'll save you 2 or 3 hours a day of prep work and all that if you have all the templates made and you got everything going. So it depends on there's a few tours I will have to do that, and there's a bunch that I won't.
Yeah,
But it's still pretty long hours.
Yeah. So one of the beautiful things about a tour when it works, when it runs well, is the customer just shows up and things are seamless and it feels like magic. And the tour director is effortless and breezy and fun. And the customer never has to think about that prep work or how much went into it. So for our listeners who maybe have never thought about it, don't know what it entails, give us an overview of what is that prep work? What are you doing behind the scenes? And how much time does that involve?
Yeah, there's a great deal of prep work. Just off the top of my head, before the tour starts, you're doing confirmation emails. You're double checking the itinerary to make sure it's accurate, seeing if there's any mistakes. You're seeing when I look at an itinerary, I look at what is the customer going to complain about. How do I set the expectations as low as possible? You know what I mean? And as well, under promise, over deliver. And then it's all, sometime every tour, if I haven't done a tour before, even if I've been there before, my commentary, I change my commentary up. My welcome letters I spend a lot of time on. ChatGPT helps with that as well. It's still time consuming because I believe putting everything in writing, because I can't remember the same thing every time. So I try to make it more like McDonald's in a way. And one way, not you still customize it, but I have a systematic process. So because I can't count on myself to remember everything, and at least I put it in writing, that I don't get blamed for things.
Yeah, you sound like me these days. If I don't have something written down, it may as well not exist because my brain's not going to keep track of it on its own. Yeah,
exactly.
For sure.
So somewhat for directing, just my own opinion, is like a lawyer, you're managing your risk. And my risk is, hey, you didn't tell me this or you didn't tell me that. And from having, when you get a complaint, and it's because when you get a complaint, whether it's your fault or not, If there's anything I could do to not have the complaint next time, then I want to do that, So it's a lot of prep work on that end. And then before the tour even starts, and then you're prepping for the day, you're reviewing your commentary. I have probably 1,000 things on there pretty much every tour. I make ridiculously the checklist, like every little thing, like drink this protein shake, do this, because I wanna make sure my templates are there for my health, for my morning routine, for my whole tour, and for post tour. So there's certain things that happen every single day, certain things that don't happen. So I probably got a good like 50 to 100 tasks to do every single day, and I don't want to forget them. And then after the day I review that, then I need to prep for the next day, the commentary, the tasks, and all that stuff. So in the off season, I want to spend some time to streamline that process a bit more on the tasks as well. So there's so many more things that I'm not even mentioning, but it's very involved. And a lot of people don't know, tour directors, we don't get paid for a lot of the prep work that we do, and also the post-tour paperwork and stuff and all that. Yeah. So there's a lot of extra work, and for that, it has to be more of a passion, I think, than just a way to make money.
Yeah. That's really good to know. And, listeners, next time you're on a tour, if you ask your tour director if he wants to go have a drink with you and he politely declines, sounds like it might be because he's got work to do for the next day. So that's really good to know. So
or they just don't like you. No, I'm kidding.
Although I've met some tour directors that were all too happy to have a drink at the end of the day. So,
yeah, it just depends, sometimes I am, but I sometimes, even if I want to, I don't, because I try to protect my mental health, because it still feels like work, because you're going to start answering some questions about the tour and all that. It'll become work in one way or another. And so in Canada, our season is maybe 5 months long, our main season, like mid-May to mid-October. So the amount of time off you have is not a lot that you have to make hay while the sun shines. Yeah. So anything I could do to get alone time, or meet another tour director, or do something for myself or mental health, I try to take that opportunity.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Okay, so in tourism, as much as in any other field, there are people saying AI is going to take all our jobs, right? It's going to put us all out of work. Especially, AI is going to take the jobs of tour operators, travel agents, and tour directors. How do you think about that topic? Are you nervous about it, or do you think, oh no, my career is safe?
I mean, the people that say AI is going to take our jobs, those are the guests that are pretty much downloading an app and doing it their own. This is about, first of all, getting a tour operator to reduce your costs by about 30 to 40% from doing it yourself. And tour direct, I think you need some humans to do that, and with AI as well, and it'll begin more. But on a tour, people need a human contact. So even the commentary is not the most important thing I do. The most important thing I do is connect my guests and make sure they know that they're taken care of. One of the first things I say to them: you made a great decision getting this tour, and you're in great hands. So don't worry, I got you. And that's important, that human connection. And the things that people remember the most are not all the stories. I don't remember much in Italy. I'm going again to learn on my own next month, but I don't remember much in Italy, what he said. I remember I smiled because Buddy took care of me. Buddy's got my back, and he made me laugh, and he's such a nice guy. I still have a smile in my head when I think about him, right? Yeah. That's what people will have about you, and everyone's different in that way. And AI can't do that, unless they make robots 90 years from now. Well, the fair enough, right? But not right now. There's something about human beings that we want a human being doing it. What I mean? Even if an AI can do a really good job, how are they going to direct tours and be that person on the ground? That doesn't make any sense to me. So I think of it as a tool. I don't think of it as a replacement.
Yeah, that's a great perspective. So you said it must have been a couple years ago when, was it your brother or a friend or somebody told you about ChatGPT? Yeah. And you tried it out and you said you immediately saw potential for tour directors. So can you remember the first thing you realized that this tool could do to make your life easier as a tour director?
Oh yeah, commentary. So, I'd be like, hey, tell me that I was researching a Newfoundland tour, right? And I was just, I think a few years ago, I just did a training tour. And then I started I wrote down everything the guide said. So I would just could go back. And I found that there's a lot of inconsistencies and mistakes in there, right? So I started looking at the buddy's notes. And then I started doing some of my own research, but ChatGPT really sped that up quite a bit. And I'd be like, okay, from this point to this point on the highway, the Viking highway, I forgot what it's called, sorry. What are some of the topics I can talk about? What about this small town? What stories do they have? So every place is a story, right? Most likely. So then I'm like, I just saw the world open, like, oh my God, I can get so many stories that I wouldn't do because I have no time. I don't have enough time to do all that. That's crazy amount of work. And I can get that much, much faster, right? And so right away, it was commentary. I had pictures of placards on my training tour, and I would just dump it into ChatGPT and be like, hey, can you make some commentary about this one? And using that information in the placard or whatever it is. And it would take that and then add its own information. I'm like, wow. And then right from there, that was just a start.
Yeah. So does ChatGPT understand, like, do you ask it, give me a tour director commentary for this stretch of highway? Or do you just have to say, I need some information about, Calgary, and then you have to sort that out yourself?
So it's like garbage in, garbage out. I give it context. I talk to it like I'm talking to you, right? I just think of it like your buddy or your human being. And you don't even need to have proper grammar. Like, hey man, like I need some, I'll even talk to it, right? You have a voice function on your phone. Hey man, I'm a tour director in Canada. My name is Mickey. Pretend you're me and give a narrative, interesting story about whatever, blah, 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 blah. And make sure that, you focus on, you make it very thorough and add a lot of details, but make it interesting because facts tell and stories sell. I'll say it just like that, for example, right? Just getting off the top of my head. And then put it in point form and bold the main word so I can look at it really quickly and talk. Because I'm always thinking, what is the least amount of work I can do to get the result? If you're going to the gym, like there's this guy, Mike Menser, right? If you're into fitness and stuff. And he was always like, what is the least amount of work I can do to generate the same stimulus in my muscles? And he got it to three 45-minute sessions a week. Dorian Yates was doing. He was one of the Olympia champions or 6-time Mr. Olympia. There's other people like Arnold. When I was reading his books, so when I was a lot younger, I was like 2 hours a day, 6 days a week. So I was like, that's interesting. There's two different philosophies, but I want to work smarter, not harder.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, for sure. So ChatGPT, AI in general, large language models, if you aren't the kind of person that gets excited about the tech behind them, they can seem just like, a black box. Like I put in text and something magical happens and text comes back to me. Do you have a little bit more contextual understanding of what the model is doing when you talk to it and how it's coming up with the results it gives you?
Yeah. So essentially, it's like, for example, let me give you a little analogy. They had an AI doing a video game, right? I think it was Super Mario. And every single time it was falling in the hole, right? And then it was doing like 1 million times, well, however many times a day, but it was making minute changes. And over that time, let's say it would take us like 10 million years to do this, right? It would do it in like a month. And it would have so many changes and so many changes to what it's doing that it finally figures out through trial and error the right way to do it. And essentially, my opinion, my understanding of ChatGPT is they have this algorithm, and it gets information on the internet, and then it tries to curate it tell you in a way that you understand. And so it'll say, hey, does this one better or is this one better? And you'll pick sometimes. And it's done that probably billions of times now. It has to be multi-billion of time, even a day probably.
Yeah.
And so it gets the right responses because the people don't ask, hey, that's wrong. Can you say it a different way? And then it learns and learns and learns. And then it curates that information and gives it to you. And it's improving all the time. It's just like anything, constant improvement. It's learning all the time. So think of it like your super smart friend. It doesn't always know where it got the information, but now there's updates where you can even get live information by pressing in ChatGPT the search world button on the bottom. So it can get information off the internet, searchers off the internet now as well. So there's a whole lot of new updates available. But rather than getting in the minutia, just think of it like your super smart friends is reading all the time and learning, and then the trial and error, getting much better at communicating to you and understanding context and nuance, which is really, really good at doing.
Yeah, that is amazing. So you mentioned commentary. That was a great place to start. I know you found at least a dozen other applications of this tech and, sort of sister technologies that might link up with ChatGPT, integrate with it. Can you give us another handful of examples for how you're using this tech in your work as a tour director?
Yeah, there's so many ways. I can't even count. So, for example, I don't know, for tour directing in the East Coast, Ontario, Quebec, there's a lot of boring drives. So it's again, what can I do for games of I used to, I don't know if when you were growing up, you like The Price is Right or Wheel of Fortune,
Yeah.
Family Feud. I love Family Feud, Jeopardy.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm like, how do I do some of those games? And I figured it out with ChatGPT how to do that extremely quickly, And now I'm going to test it out for this year on some of the tours and see how it'll work. And it can give trivia very, 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 very quickly. Something I just learned about recently. It can actually summarize and give you commentary on PDF books. So if you can get an electronic book on Kindle, and there's a way to just Google how to convert it to PDF if you bought it, then it can summarize that book for you, or just give you commentary topics, and then saves you a lot of time if you don't want to read it, right? As well. Trivia, there's survey scores, for example. Rather than reading your whole survey and then and being angry at the one person that hates you, you just put it all in ChatGPT, analyzes the whole spreadsheet for you, however they give it to you, and tells you what you did well, what you could do better, and what are some practical ways that you take the negative feedback and say, what are the constructive ways I can mitigate this in the future, or what can I do to get better feedback on my surveys? And I'll tell you, and it's really, really smart at doing that, And so I read it and then ask ChatGPT as well. Problem solving on the road, questions on the road. I always tell people, if I look, believe it or not, I don't know everything. I know it's hard to believe, but I have two options for you. I can either look it up or I can make it up, and either one's fine with me. So if I look it up, GPT is right there, And if I'm in the mountains with no service, then they have no option. I will make it up.
Yeah. I'm sure they appreciate that honesty too. Yeah. That's great. So
it's for example, I find it's all how you sell it, right? And if you're genuine. So selling to me is about being genuine and honest. And when they believe you and they know you're honest and they know they can trust your word, then everything gets really easy and you get a lot more grace,
Yeah.
And so rather than making something up or something like that, just let people know, and a little humor doesn't hurt. That's kind of one of my things I'm just naturally do.
Yeah.
And people are there to have a really good time.
Yeah.
And
so you mentioned those post-trip evaluations and having ChatGPT help you with those. I assume you probably still read them. Read them yourself first. Have you found that by uploading them and asking the AI to analyze them, that it recognizes some trends that maybe didn't jump out to you when you were physically reading them on paper?
Oh, way more than that. Trends, like it'll break down so many different. I can't even remember all the ways it broke down. I just presented on it like a month ago, and I'll say trends, and it'll give examples of little snippets of what they're doing. It'll give you like a full report on so many different ways, and I ask it, hey, I want what I can do better, what I didn't do well, practical examples, trends, and anything else you think is useful for me. And it'll come up with 3 or 4 different things. So think of it like your super smart friend, okay, the smartest person in the world. You know what I mean? And think of it like a mutant, an X-Men or something, And it's like super smart. It knows everything. It knows so much. And then just ask it to add its own knowledge, right? So I go, hey, this is what I know. Now add whatever you think and give it back to me, and then play with it. It's like ping pong.
Yeah. Wow, that's great. Now, something I've heard you talk about that I didn't know existed, honestly, until I heard you present on it, was all these tools that integrate with ChatGPT, third-party programs and apps and stuff. So in addition to the LLM, the sort of chat interface, what are some of those third-party tools that you find yourself using, integrations that are helpful? I think you've talked about maps before and being able to create maps to give to your customers. Give us some of those ideas and how they're working for you.
Well, there's so many, and what you're referring to is in ChatGPT. If you click on the left-hand side, you'll see Explore GPTs, and that's kind of like your app store, where you don't really need to pay for much. And so, for example, there's one. See, ChatGPT has a lot of limitations. Okay, so it's like It's like like Lord of the Rings, the Eye of Sauron, right? It's always looking around, always looking around, But then it needs like a real, it needs to focus, on one thing, and it's hard to do that with ChatGPT. So then you have third-party apps that kind of put like a little binoculars on the Eye of Sauron, and then you can like really hone in and really go deep, and then you could see really clearly. So that's a horrible analogy, but that's the best thing I can stick out of Ed. And there's a third party, for example, it can't read whole PDF documents and summarize, give commentary on it. But with a third party app called, I forget off the top of my head, it's one of the first ones, API PDF or something like that. Just if you go on third party, you'll find it. Just type in PDF and look at the reviews and how many people use it. It can actually, I upload a document and in 10 seconds, it will give me a summary. I ask it, what topics from this document can I talk about? Because I never read the document and I'm not going to read the document. It's boring, right? Mm-hmm. It's going to take me like 5 hours. And it'll tell me all the topics and they'll give commentary on those topics if I prompt it to do so. So it's all about what the prompts are that you're using or the questions. One that I use personally on the road and at home is a therapy app. Mm-hmm. So on the road, I find I don't have time to deal with issues. We always, as tour directors, we hold a lot of things in, and we're on all the time. We're on all the time. And then you carry a lot of things that you don't know. That's why a lot of tour directors, if you talk to, when they're home after a tour, like, don't talk to me for 2 days. I'm not good for humans for 1 or 2 days, That's pretty common with tour directing. So I find using this therapy app, for example, I journal. I try to journal 10 minutes a day, most days. And I journal and I put it into this therapy app called Therapist Psychologist something. It's really, really good. Excellent. The best thing I've ever seen on ChatGPT for my personal, that I personally think has benefited me. And then I'll talk to you like a therapist and break things down to you and ask you questions and delve deeper. And you can even talk to it and I'll talk to you like a person. It's amazing. There's ones to analyze spreadsheets better. There's ones to summarize books. It doesn't give ChatGPT won't give you Google links on Google Maps for suggestions of go to this restaurant. I'll use this other one, this other app called Google or something on there. If you mess around there, you'll find it. And what it'll do is it'll give me the Google link from where I'm starting to where I'm ending. So it'll save me that time. So anything you can think to save you time, it could do. I'll give you an example. There's so many, but just off the top of my head, a Via Rail, right? We use a Via Rail train. Mm-hmm. And the Via Rail train has tickets, and there's like maybe, I don't know, like everywhere everyone's seating and everything is a few pages. And what I like to do, I don't want to tell people where they're seated to save me time. I put it into ChatGPT and I'm like, just make a table of who's seating where and which car. It'll make the table. I print it out, give it to the guests. Wow. And then that's another question I don't get. And so I'm all about efficiency there. And ChatGPT regularly has a hard time doing that, but now it's much better because I tested it out last year. It was horrible. Now this year, boom, like that.
Yeah.
So something that doesn't work now, it might work in the future.
That's a good note. You've told me before about using a similar map function. If you're going to have free time in a city and your clients are going to ask, where should we go for lunch? Having something you've prepared using an AI tool to print it out and give it to them, and here's 10 great restaurant recommendations. How does that work?
So very simple. So I have my own in the city as well. But let's just say, let's make assumption. Let's say I've never been anywhere before. Let's say I'm in Kentucky. Okay. Mm-hmm. You're in Kentucky, right?
Yeah.
So let's say I'm in Kentucky and I'm in a certain city in Kentucky. And what's a big city in Kentucky? Louisville, Kentucky, right?
Yeah.
So let's say I'm in Louisville. I have no idea anything about Louisville except KFC, So I'm in Louisville and I'll be like, okay, I'm staying at, what's a nice hotel in Louisville? You know anything?
The Seelbach.
Okay, the Seelbach. I'm at the Seelbach at blah, blah, blah address because maybe there's two. I don't know, right? And I'm looking for, and this is a prompt, meaning a direction you put into ChatGPT. And I'm looking for, and I have a guess that are probably about 70, so seniors, right, in general. And so I'm looking for anything within 15-minute walking from this hotel, right? So give it directions. So what I need is an explanation of any restaurant suggestions you think are good. Put a dollar sign for cheap, $2 for medium, just like Google does.
Yeah.
And also check the Google reviews to make sure it's good and give me the Google review score as well. In addition, tell me what are the main dishes in the restaurant, a little bit about the restaurant, a little blurb about it. And then give me the typed out Google link for this, not the link that you just press, but just give me the typed out link. So I can copy it onto Microsoft Word. And then I can put it as an e-file. So they just have a QR code and they go there and they just click on that and it'll go right on their map. something like that. I'm just going really a little bit more, maybe too much in depth. And then if I asked you to do that, you tell me to kick rocks, right? But if I asked ChatGPT to do that, boom, it happens very quickly. Now, it was a perfect no. Now, something I learned this year, I always used to check. I still check with Google because I have a little bit of OCD as well. I have all the Ds, ADD, OCD. So anyways, I'm out there. I'm checking Google on all that, making sure the walking directions. And this year, my last couple tours, it's been excellent. When I used that third party to get the Google direction, it's been excellent to tell me to do that as well. And then it'll tell me dining suggestions. Now I'll be like, okay, but and then I'll go on Google, let's say, and there's a couple more. How about this one and this one? Can you add that in? And what about these ones? What about, I have a friend, Brian's my buddy in Kentucky, and he's near Louisville. He said this and this one. Can you tell me those things? Now also tell me, in Kentucky, every place has dishes that are famous for that. Like New Orleans has Banana Foster, Po' Boys, right?
Yeah.
And I'm sure Kentucky has that as well. You guys have your own special barbecue. So but is there any dishes you recommend also they try, and also where they can get them close to the hotel? Boom, boom, boom. So try to think of everything the guests would want and put it in writing, and then you have it prepared. And if you have multiple tours there, you just do the work once.
Yeah.
And there you go. You just update it every year.
That's amazing, because 5 years ago, to create that document, you would have had to spend hours on it. You would have had to call the tourist office, get a guidebook, Google all over the place. And this takes 10 minutes, maybe, start to finish?
I would say a little bit more than that. It might take half an hour to 40 minutes just because you're double checking all the information.
Gotcha.
And you might not need to double check as much anymore, but I'm just doing it on the safe side. But 40 minutes compared to multiple hours.
Yeah, for sure.
That makes sense. And on my last tour, I had a 16-page packet. And I gave it to everyone, loved it. And all the information, itineraries, ChatGPT helped me make. It was in Quebec, a French guide, facts about Quebec, itinerary for every day I use, helped with ChatGPT as well. Helps me make my itineraries for every day. A welcome letter, the whole welcome letters through chat. So I wrote it myself, but I put it in ChatGPT to optimize it.
Yeah.
And so like every feedback it's amazing. And I barely have any questions. And I get so much feedback, and Mickey is super. When you do that, you look super organized because you are, and it's all done away in advance. You look like a pro. So which other tour directors are getting the whole packet in advance. Here's everything you need to know about our tour. It's your homework tonight. Read it over. If you have trouble sleeping, read it over. It'll put you out like a light. Like about it, and then it's always in there, right? And if I get a question, oh, by the way, it's in your document, but here's the answer for you, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then they just go by that, and because people want to know what they're doing each day, and sometimes if you can have all the confirmations way in advance, and you make your itineraries in advance, it's even better. So that's something I want to do better for this year's. Have everything in advance of my tours, which I did the last couple tours, and make a packet for every tour, like a whole packet of itineraries and everything.
Yeah, that is wonderful. Now, you mentioned that you go back and do a real world check of the results ChatGPT gives you, and we've all heard stories about the AI is generating incorrect information, hallucinating or something like that. So what is your process for making sure you get accurate information from the system, and for double checking the system so that you don't embarrass yourself?
Yeah. So, well, it depends on the context. So dining guides, I make sure the restaurant's open. That's the main thing. Right? Yeah. And you could verify that on Google. That's pretty easy. Right. And it'll make a lot of mistakes. I use the paid version. So I don't know. I haven't used a free version, maybe only for the first month, and I use the paid version. So I use ChatGPT 4.0 or whatever it's called. However, it'll give me some information. Sometimes it's not correct. I can see that because of my experience as well, right? But also there's other, if there's pertinent details that look off, I'll Google that as well. Certain things, it's hard to Google every little thing it tells you, or there's no point, right?
Yeah.
But I'll use Google, but also there's third-party apps, as I meant, that I showed. I think I showed this during the seminar, but I didn't have much time to get into it. There's a few in there that are researcher ones. So they'll take what ChatGPT says, and they'll use a third-party app and like, hey, is this accurate? Find any fallacies in here. I'll go line by line telling you if it's accurate or not, and the source of the information. So now with third-party apps, it can even tell you the sources. So hey, the Colonel of Kentucky Fried Chicken was born on this day. Here's about him. Here's the source. So I'll call the source, and I'll check a bunch of them. And as long as most are accurate, that's fine.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be 100% accurate. I know that. But I try to be as best as I can.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. That makes so much sense. Do you mind to tell us how much you have to pay in monthly fees or something like that to get access to these tools?
So it's $20 US a month, I believe. And now because I live in Canada, it's probably $80,000 a month, with our dollar going down. Or like now it's like $34 or whatever, but our dollar's going in the down in the garbage can right now, unfortunately.
Yeah.
It's like $20 a month or so. But if you're in America, it's almost free for you guys.
Yeah. And that $20.
If it was $200 a month American, I would still pay for it.
Wow. And that gets you access to the integrations as well, and not just the core.
The integration. I'm not even sure. Maybe even you can use the Explore GPTs in the free version too. So what I would say is use the free version. Even ask ChatGPT what the free version includes, right?
Mm-hmm.
And try to think of it. This is going to sound bad, but think of yourself like an extremely lazy person. What is something that I have to do the least amount of work to do? And that's the most efficient, right? Even if you're a very hard worker, and I'm sure most people are. So, and then take that route with it. And then when you use the paid version is just smarter, it's just a bigger brain. You're getting access to a bigger brain, if that makes sense. Yeah. It's $20 a month or so US.
Yeah, that is absolutely amazing. I know that you present on this topic a lot. What are some ways that people can hear maybe some of the presentations you have done in the past, or connect with you, follow you, learn more about what you're learning about this tool?
Yeah, so I have a page called Tour Directing and AI. Tour Directing, 2 words, and AI on Facebook. You can join that and then just answer the questions. If you're a tour director or something like that, we can approve you in there. So a few hundred people in there now. I have a presentation I did a year ago. I just did a really good one last month. I didn't record it though, because I was thinking about making a workshop as well. But I don't know. I have to get a certain amount of people interested in it to do it. Yeah. However, Tour Directing and AI page is good. I'll likely be going. I went to the TripCon last year. This year, I might. I have availability to go to the IATDG event as well. So if more people are interested in training, then just put it on there. And then it's because I do free ones here and there. Yeah. But it just depending because my off season is not super long. It's only a few months. So if people do want a workshop or something like that, message me on there, and then I can get back to you on specified training if certain people are available. Because I had like 5 or 6 people available for a certain workshop, but it wasn't enough to make it feasible for me. But there's a training video on there for free recording. It's over a year old, but it's excellent. And the guy who did it is really smart.
Yeah. And if somebody wants to just connect with you, follow you on social, what platforms are you active on?
Facebook mostly. I have the Tour Director with Soul is on Facebook usually, Messenger, and mostly Facebook. Instagram I don't use much, LinkedIn I don't use much, and all that.
Yeah, gotcha. Well, before we let you go, we have some questions we ask every guest, and these are just for fun. So no pressure. You can just answer off the top of your head. When you travel, are you booking a window seat or an aisle seat?
Aisle. I'm 6'3", and a quarter. That's the most important part. So my left leg is good and my right leg is in pain, but I need an aisle seat.
Yeah, I totally get that. What's something in your carry-on that you wouldn't travel without?
Oh, that's, let's see here. My carry-on, my laptop.
Yeah.
Have to be my laptop.
Yeah, especially when you're working with ChatGPT so much. You go without that tool.
My laptop and iPad and massage gun.
Oh, yeah. Got to work out those sore muscles. I understand that. Yeah. If you had a free airline pass and a week with nothing else to do, where would you be headed next?
Home. I don't want to go anywhere right now. I've been traveling like crazy. I'm going to San Diego this month, and I have Fort Washington. The next month I'm off to England, Italy, and then Berlin. So to answer that question, I get the gist of the question. I don't want to go anywhere right now. Even if you paid me money to go, I probably wouldn't want to. Yeah. However, if I was going to go anywhere, it would be Brazil. I love Brazil. I'm learning Brazilian Portuguese. Wow. I have there's a website called Preply I use all the time. I have a instructor on there from Brazil that teaches me almost every day now for an hour or so. And then I use ChatGPT, mind you, to make flashcards and really speed up the learning process. So I got her on one side, I got ChatGPT on one side, and then it puts everything in context. Because if you use Google Translate, it doesn't understand context, expressions. It's not nearly as good as ChatGPT in helping you. And ChatGPT can make you flashcards really quickly. So it massively speeds up your learning process as well. Languages.
How cool. I love that. Final question. What is one thing you have seen or done on the road that you wish you could go back and experience again with somebody you love?
I'd love to take my girlfriend to Moraine Lake. I think it's the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. It's in Alberta. If you haven't seen the Canadian Rockies, which I never even knew about, even though I live an hour and 50-minute flight away, it's the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. And I take people up there, Brian? And I take people up the rock pile there and they see it, the 10 peaks and the beautiful water. And even the pictures look like they're fake, but people cry when they see it sometimes, And I get so excited when I get to take people there. I'm like, I can't wait till you see the top, Yeah. I wish I could show that to my mom. I will one day, and then my girlfriend too, and just see it for yourself. The first time I saw it, I'm like, how is it that Canada didn't tell us to go here? How is it that I didn't even know about this? Canadian Rockies, whatever. I want to go to, Las Vegas. No, this needs to be put in everyone. As a Canadian, it should be that you have to go to the Canadian Rockies, mandatory.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I would take the Rockies over Vegas anytime. I think you're on the right track there. Mickey, thanks so much for joining us. It's been a pleasure to have you.
Thanks, Brian. Take care.
Hey, thanks so much for joining us for this interview. I want to let you know that conversations like this are just part of what you will hear if you tune into a full episode of the Gather and Go podcast. When you listen, you'll get travel news you may not hear anywhere else, along with some really helpful road tips, some smart analysis, and maybe even a hot take from me about issues that are impacting travel right now. Now, you can hear this full episode along with many others by searching for Gather and Go in your favorite podcast player, or you can click on the link right below this video or one of the videos right here to my side. Thanks for watching. We'll see you again soon.